And welcome to Beerfield Fantasy Football. I am your host at Hot BFF. That's with two P's. Joined by at Thurry BFF, who just pulled a Beerfield hat, I think, out of nowhere. You haven't been wearing that the whole time, have you?
No, I just threw it on. It was sitting right next to me. I was like, you know what? I gotta rep the show.
All right, and you can buy that hat if you want to, TM us. There's one left, so don't wait too long. Otherwise, you won't be able to buy that hat if you like the hat that he's wearing. This is a mildly drunkenly prepared show, a mildly buzzed show, but we are here. Hey, wanted to let you all know that every time I log into YouTube, I see people that are commenting after the shows are over and stuff, asking about trades and things like that. And first off, we appreciate you, and we appreciate all the interaction we get for our listeners. And it makes me feel a little bad because I don't necessarily see the YouTube comments as quickly as we do Twitter or something else. So if you want that instant response, obviously YouTube Live during the show, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about you, but not during the show. Beerfield FF on Twitter and Instagram, and Untapped at Hot BFF for me, at Thurry BFF for Dan. You can, if you're listening to the audio version, follow us on YouTube, Beerfield Fantasy Football. You can catch our Sunday morning live streams for all your start-sit questions. Tune in during the shows as we're recording them on Monday and Wednesday, whenever we decide to do that on those days, to give us all your start-sit questions, trade questions, ask us our opinion about players, ask us our opinion about life. I'm
waiting for that question. We're alive, we're in a heated debate. Derrick Henry and Deion Lewis or some nasty shit like that, and someone goes, I need you to give me life advice about my wife telling me I play too much fantasy football. I'm waiting for that moment. You'd be like, all right, perfect.
First off, if that's the life advice, that's the life advice. There's an easy one. Tell her to get a hobby or get a divorce. So there's that. Also, don't take my advice.
Also, don't take his advice.
Yeah, don't take my advice. So, listener questions, by the way, that obviously was prompted by something. So I did respond, but we did have a couple listener questions since we went off the air on Monday. So I want to get those out there and get those talked about because I feel like that is deserved.
Oh, of course.
So, the first question was, there's two trade questions, and I think that these were straight up. The first one was Antonio Brown for Odell Beckham, which that seems like a no-brainer right now.
If you can get Beckham for Brown, that's easy. We don't even know if Brown's going to make it to mid-season.
Yeah,
given allegations that I'm assuming we'll be getting to shortly.
Literally the first item in the news. So stay tuned for those if you've been living under a rock for the last 3 days.
Right.
But yeah, if you can get anything for Brown, to be fair, that was asked before those allegations came out. But
that's true.
The answer is yes, and I hope you did it. The other one was Michelle from Miles Sanders in full PPR, and I replied back to this one, and this was asked earlier today, but I would absolutely do that. The thing with Sonny Michel is that, some people are going to be scared off by Monday. It's going to be part of the overreaction thing. That's just kind of part of owning a Patriots back. But I think Miles Sanders is a more clear path to taking a hold on that backfield and to getting more volume as the season goes on than what Sonny Michel does.
I will say this. If you want Miles Sanders and they want Tony Michel, you can get something else with it. They're going to pay, don't just buy a Miles Sanders straight up for Michel. It's he's not worth Michel's costs at this point.
Yeah.
So get something more involved. Down the line, it may flip. You don't know. A couple injuries happen to the Patriot backfield. Michel becomes a Balco. I like Michel, especially the next upcoming weeks. They get what should be better game scripted matchups for him.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really want Miles Sanders and they really want Sonny Michel a part of that deal, ask for something else. At least don't do it straight up though.
Yeah, and I wouldn't do it straight up. Get a little something because right now you're right. Michel's value does outset Sanders, but I think as the season wears on, Sanders will have a little more value than Michel, and that's just because I expect Sanders has a clear path to winning the lion's share of the backfield than what Sonny Michel does.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by mid-season.
Yeah,
Miles Sanders is a weekly low RB1 with upside.
And the difference there is that for the Patriots, they always seem to use multiple backs. For the Eagles, like Jordan Howard didn't look great, and he wasn't great for the Bears. And that's really the only thing he's fighting with, other than Darren Sproles, who's changing pace at this point. But for Michelle, like James White is a premier pass catching back that they also trust to run the ball on occasion. There's a healthy dose of Rex Burkhead. We even saw Brandon Bolden as I was cussing at my screen, and Damian Harris look good in preseason. So, yeah, I would do that. So, I mean, even if you can't get anything else, I would probably still pull the trigger if that one came to me.
I wanted to throw something else in there because
I saw it. Go ahead.
This debate happened at work. So my GM, at the Bennies I work for, he plays in high stakes fantasy leagues, and in this league, for some reason, Sammy Watkins was in the waivers, and the debate was some guy spent all of his fab dollars, 100% of his on his fab on Watkins, and Lane thought it was the GM thought it was the dumbest thing in the world to do that. I hesitated because I think it's not out of the realm of possibility to spend all your fab on Sammy Watkins. I obviously see the pause for concern. I don't know if I would have done 100%. I think 75% I would have been okay with. But I wanted to hear your thoughts on this type of thing that just happened.
I agree with Lane. Sorry, I didn't know if we were name dropping or not. But
I did.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I agree with Lane on this. I don't. First off, I'm not a big advocate for blowing your entire load all at once. In every sense of which you can take that phrase. But
yes. Or pro phrase show.
Yeah, pro phrasing. But you never know what you're going to encounter later on in the season to where you might need that fab to fill a hole. Who's going to go off? Who's going to consistently climb the ladder that you might want to pick up that could help contribute to your team in case of injury? And I don't think that you want to paint yourself into a corner because of that, which is why I agree more with like your 75%. The thing with Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill is going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. We'll get to that here in a little bit. During that time, Sammy Watkins is going to be a wide receiver one, and he showed it. And he can be, and he has been. But you've always got the health concerns with Sammy Watkins, which is a red flag in and of itself to where, okay, how much he's high upside, but how much can you rely on that? And yes, it's high stakes. You probably are going to have to roll the dice and gamble a little bit. But I just don't like painting yourself into a corner by dropping all of your fab on one player at any given point in time. The majority, sure, but you always want to keep a little bit in the tank just in case you need it.
Yeah, so I brought this up. Oh, fuck, I did forget about my stag. Shit. Well, Monday. I'll do it on the live stream on Sunday. Thanks, Nathan. He brought it up, and I forgot the stag, so my bad there.
Did.
It's been a long day at work. So my carding argument to this, well, I do agree that you shouldn't drop 100% on it. I did paint a picture about it. This is just good to know in general. These are the type of players that you're waiting for in waivers. You're looking for a guy that can break your season open, that can really set your roster apart. Like even if Watkins doesn't become what he is in 6 weeks on the road, you trade him during this process to get a running back or another wide receiver with more long-standing upside. Like with him, he allows you to do so much more. That's why I think 75% would have been where I would have started. Had a lot started him, yeah, that would suck. But I also don't want to miss out on a potential game-changing player that could help set me apart from the rest of my league mates.
And I agree with that, especially in high stakes. And that's why I'd say I would agree with the 75%, because you're keeping 25% of your fab back as a rainy day fund.
Yep.
You may need it. It doesn't preclude you from putting in your waiver claims or doing whatever it is that you need to do and investing a little bit in somebody. But even if you have to do that a couple times, it really doesn't preclude you from that. But at the same time, Sammy Watkins is going to be a wide receiver one. With Tyreek Hill out, you don't find that on waivers. So yes, you should put a high amount on him. Just wouldn't do all of it. So I think we're in agreement there.
Yeah, I agree. I just thought it was a great thing to bring up because it's week one overreactions, waivers. This is the only real week of the season where you're going to see really bad drops or guys who didn't make it through the initial draft that blew up.
Yep. It's also a good strategy discussion about fab in general.
Yes, exactly. So
all right. So yeah, love having this conversations in the intro. Keep the questions coming. As far as today's episode, we're going to get you ready for week 2. We're going to give you all start, sit, streams, go over news, injury news, try to give our predictions on what we think will happen. As always, with those injuries, as always, tune in on Sunday morning for kind of the final ins and outs and how all that's going to go. But before we get started, as always, let's find out what is fueling us. We know it's not Stag for Dan like it was supposed to be.
I know. I feel terrible.
What's fueling Beerfield?
You're good. You can go. What are you drinking? Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry. I don't know why. I just expected you to
I know.
take that him without me leading it off, but
I did like fades out and it like really gets like quiet, so I can't hear right like towards the end of it. But anyways,
go ahead.
Continuing on the Oktoberfest series, we have Civil Life. They're out of St. Louis, Missouri. This one is just like any other traditional so far, so it's going to be the dark color as you'll see on camera here. So I look excited to talk about this one a little bit.
All right, and for me, I am drinking Beer Lichen from Public House out of St. James, Missouri. It is a Marzen style lager, so kind of the bastard cousin of Oktoberfest, if you will.
It's the lighter. It's a more like
it's like
traditional version of it.
Oktoberfest. Yes, it's a less malty version. Well, sorry, less sweet malty version, I should say. So
there you go. Yep.
I am drinking that, getting in the spirit of the hopefully upcoming fall season. I will enjoy those 2 weeks very much. LOL global warming, not really. Let's go ahead and get into the news. If I can find the drop. There it is.
News.
All right, and Antonio Brown has been accused of rape and I believe sexual misconduct as well by a former trainer in a civil suit. The allegations were a little bit graphic, which normally we don't mind, but let's just say it involved jerking off and unwanted. Never mind. Anyway,
just really horrible grammar.
Yeah, it's not even something I want to verbalize.
Yeah, it's not good.
That crudely on the show. He could play week 2, but there's also a chance the NFL steps in and he ends up on the commissioner's exempt list, which would basically keep him there until the investigation was done. So, sell, and sell.
If you can. I think he plays week 2, so I think they'll do their due diligence and make a rational decision without being really, irrational about it. So I wouldn't be shocked if you played week 2. I think after that, though, I think by mid next week you'll see some sort of answer about it. Because for those out there who haven't been following it, just go on Twitter or just go really anywhere with sports news, and you'll see all the text messages and emails and things sent back and forth. It looks bad on both sides. It's
really weird timing. I will give it that. It's really
weird timing because she's just getting married, and I'm not putting anything out in the universe for that. I think this whole process is fucked up already.
I don't want to put anything in the universe for that, but I'm just saying that. Yeah, I'm not into victim blaming or victim shaming or anything like that. But given the turbulent offseason Antonio Brown has had, and then the timing of this, if it did happen, it seems like really, really odd timing. It's all I'm saying, and that's going to create at least a little bit of reasonable doubt that could drag this investigation on and allow him to continue to play or not play.
Yeah, we'll obviously talk more about it once we get a little bit more news. Yeah. At this point, I wouldn't mind selling and redraft. You can try to get, I guess, Odell Beckham for him.
Yeah. Terry McLaurin.
Go get.
Is Demir Bird available?
Demir Bird, yeah.
All right. Moving on from that, because there's not really a whole lot else to say on that. We don't know a whole lot. Those are just the possible outcomes, and I would say be wary. The Bengals waive quarterback Jeff Driscoll with an injury settlement. Eagles released tight end Richard Rodgers with an injury settlement. The Jaguars signed wide receiver Terry Godwin to their practice squad. All three of those are pretty much not relevant to fantasy at all. The Jets acquired wide receiver Demaryius Thomas from the Patriots in exchange for a 2021 sixth-round pick. The reason for this is coming up later, but I'll just say it now, and then we can skip it later. Quincy Enunwa was out for the season with a neck injury. I didn't expect Quincy Enunwa to be a big part of this offense. I don't expect Demaryius Thomas to have a bounce back or be a big part of this offense.
Sorry, go ahead.
At this point, they're both just expendable pieces.
Yeah, I think the days of DT being fantasy relevant are behind him. But it does shed. I guess it gave more clarity to them making this move, because they've made this move before the Quincy Enunwa news came out, and it made no fucking sense to me until
the Enunwa news came out.
So
yeah, and he'll be on the field, but I still expect Jamison Crowder, Robbie Anderson, and then Chris Herndon when he gets back, along with Le'Veon Bell, to be the pieces in this offense, and Demaryius Thomas to not be that. And Quincy Enunwa has not been able to stay on the field the last 3 seasons, so he's pretty done.
At least DT gives Darnold
another target,
red zone threats. So
that is the thing. One thing it does help probably is Sam Darnold.
Yeah, it does give him some red zone viability.
Yep. The Jets waive kicker Corey Vedvik. We kind of alluded to this happening on Monday's episode. They signed kicker Sam Ficken, who had filled in for the Rams each of the last 2 seasons when Greg Zuerlein missed a week.
And the Jets kicking carousel continues.
Yep. And the Browns waived show favorite Rico Gathers.
Preseason Hall of Famer, preseason MVP in your 101, Rico Gathers.
Yep. That's it for regular news. Let's get into the hangovers. There are definitely some guys that are still feeling it from Sunday.
Oof.
Hangovers.
All right, going to go ahead and kick this one off with Hunter Henry, who suffered a tibia plateau fracture in his left knee. This is absolutely heartbreaking news to anybody that was hoping for a big Hunter Henry comeback, myself included. It's likely a 4 to 6 week injury. He's going to be sitting in your IR slot for that 4 to 6 weeks, or if not, you kind of have to drop him. I don't think you can keep him rostered. TJ Hawkinson was available. It's not likely he is. If Hawkinson or Andrews are still available, those are going to be your best replacements. If not, you're going to be streaming tight ends.
Darren Waller as well.
Darren Waller as well is one to throw in there, yes.
Just one note to this. JJ Watt suffered the same injury in 2017 and had a difficult time making a comeback from this throughout the year. So 4 to 6 weeks made seem like you could still get some fantasy viability out of him. I wouldn't be surprised if this takes a bit longer.
If you have multiple IR slots, stash him. If you have one IR slot, stash him until you need it for somebody that you're more sure is going to come back.
Yeah. And if you have a small bench spot, then I think you got to cut bait.
Yeah, you do. Juju Smith-Schuster is limited in practice on Wednesday with a toe injury. It is optimistic that he is going to play.
Yeah, I have no worry there.
I'm not worried about this. I'm also not worried about James Conner missing practice with an illness on Wednesday. It's early enough in the week to where he should be good.
Yep.
Tyler Lockett did not practice on Wednesday with an undisclosed injury. It's hard to really have an opinion about this without knowing what it is. So
True.
We'll have to wait to figure that one out.
That receiving core in Seattle is getting very, very thin. If Lockett is
going to be a lot of DK Metcalf if Lockett misses time.
A lot of double team on Metcalf.
Yep.
Guess what else are they going to fucking throw to?
Because David Moore is still limited as well.
Yep.
Ted Ginn did not practice on Wednesday due to illness. Not worried about that. And even if I wouldn't be worried about Ted Ginn, even if he was healthy.
I love him in DFS this week. He had 9 targets, I think, he had 9 targets on Monday night.
Ted Ginn did?
Yeah, well, he was their second receiver. Well, outside of Kamara.
Second targeted.
Yeah. I mean, he had 7 catches.
Did he? Huh. It's weird how not noticeable he was.
I know. Well, Saints being forced to throw will do things.
Yeah. Chargers wide receiver Mike Williams with a knee injury did not practice on Wednesday. With Hunter Henry out and Melvin Gordon not there, if Mike Williams misses, is there more of a must play than Keenan Allen?
No, he'll be be good. I think if you're concerned about anything, it'd be game pace. But Keenan Allen's going to be played regardless.
He's going to be the only guy.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be who's it good for is Austin Eckler, and then you throw in Travis Benjamin if you're looking for just a complete dart throw.
No, when's the last time Travis Benjamin had a relevant fantasy week? Trivia question.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, you can say that, but I mean,
I'm just gonna
saw
throw it out
Tyrell Williams. I mean, Dontrell Inman's there. You want to make that prediction?
Fuck no.
Okay.
I just want Keenan Allen.
Yeah, just Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
Packers head in Jimmy Graham limited at practice on Wednesday with a finger. I'm not worried about that. He played with the same injury last week.
Yeah.
Jordan Reed is still in concussion protocol, as he probably should be, like, permanently. Trent Taylor and Jalen Hurd both remain sidelined at 49ers practice, which Dante Pettis will still somehow only get 2 targets because he slept with Shanahan's wife.
2 fucking snaps. It's all he'll get.
Yeah, 1 target, 1 reception, 7 yards.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon still day-to-day with an ankle injury. Monitor that situation.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, Samaje P. Ryan if he can't go.
Oh, fuck. No.
I am hoping for that.
Oh, God. You just want to throw that in Nick and Maya's face.
What is dead may not.
Comes out, it gets like 3 rushing touchdowns.
You remember the episode of the Fantasy Footballers after Christine Michael finally had a relevant week?
Right.
That's what's going to happen when Samaje P. Ryan's an RB1.
Dan's going to be sick that day.
Yeah. Dan's going to call into the show.
Dan's calling in sick to the
podcast. Sterling Shepard did not practice with a concussion. They did.
Cody Latimer.
Yeah, they did also re-sign TJ Jones. I don't know if I wrote that down anywhere, but they did that thing.
Sure.
AJ Green shed his walking boot. He ran on a treadmill. That's looking good for him to be back in week 3 or week 4.
Yay.
Trey Burton's still day-to-day with a groin injury. Monitor that situation. He did not play last week. Albert Wilson not practicing Wednesday with a calf injury because he can't stay healthy.
Nope.
Greg Olsen plans to suit up for against the Bucks. Yeah, he's suiting up for the other team. He's had enough.
Wow.
No, he plans to suit up against the Bucks, but he admitted the short week's less than ideal, which doesn't sound great.
I'm not playing Greg Olsen anywhere.
Play Thursday night. I would not play Greg Olsen. No. It's likely that if he does play, he's limited, and you see some Ian Thomas.
Maybe, yeah. There's no way I'm playing Greg Olsen anywhere.
Yeah. I already talked about Quincy Enunwa. We kind of talked about Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins earlier, but Tyreek Hill is expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks due to his SC joint injury. Be Sammy Watkins in the meantime. We debated this on Monday's episode. Go back and check that out if you want to hear our thoughts there. There's plenty of back and forth on Mecole Hardman, which is vomit worthy.
I feel gross even being on that side.
Yep. And running back Dontrell Hilliard missed practice Tuesday because he's still in concussion protocol. So monitor that situation because it's better for Nick Chubb if Hilliard doesn't steal his touchdown.
It's better for everybody if there doesn't steal touchdowns.
Yep. All right, let's get Top Shelf and Rail. Those are our Top Shelf starts because Top Shelf is good and Rail is sits because Rail is bad and is going to leave you feeling hungover, and you don't want to do that.
Yes.
Top Shelf or Rail?
All right, Dan, you got Sonny Michel against Miami.
Yeah, this one I think just seems like just a perfect call, which means he'll get like 10 carries for 20 yards. But anyways, last Sunday night was, I think to me, was an easy fade for Michel. It just seemed like a perfect James White game script matchup. The Patriots know what Pittsburgh does, so they want to push the slate on it. They want to keep him pushing. James White and Rex Burkhead kind of fit that mold better than what Michel does at this moment. They get Miami, who just gave up 265 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on his 46 attempts to the Baltimore Ravens. I'm firing up Michel. I think by halftime, you could have 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, he absolutely could. For me, I've got another running back for you. That is Josh Jacobs against Kansas City. Jacobs went out and saw over 20 touches. It wasn't necessarily to great efficiency against a very, very good Denver defense. Kansas City's defense is not Denver's defense. Fournette was a little iffy against them, but still did enough. And I think if Josh Jacobs gets his 20 to 25 carries, which they said that they show no signs of backing down, that you could get another relevant week, and he's got the chance for the end zone. He's at least running back 2 worthy, which makes him very, very startable, especially against a lesser defensive matchup than what he had on Monday night when he was still, relevant and very usable and startable.
Yeah, like for me, I don't know if he'll get 20 to 25 carries, but if you can get 5 to 6, 7 targets, like that's like this game screams that type of game script. If he can steal Jalen Richard's targets, then I'm bumping the fuck out of Josh Jacobs.
Well, and yeah, I do think that they probably try to run early. And another note in that game, by the way, we mentioned Sammy Watkins earlier. We didn't mention it in the injuries or anything like that, but I want to mention it now as long as we're on the subject of Oakland. Garyon Conley and Josh Abrams.
Oh, I know.
Are both
Josh Abrams came out of nowhere.
Yeah, he's on IR, and Conley's looking like he's going to miss this week. So their secondary is already, they're already missing their 2 biggest players in the secondary.
Yeah, there's going to be some big Sammy Watkins and Mecole Hardman plays.
Well, and also the fact that for Josh Jacobs, Abrams is a little bit of a run-stuffing safety. So there's that.
Exactly. I still love the call.
Yep. All right, you got Michael Gallup chasing points, but in a good matchup.
I love this matchup. So Washington got fucking smoked by Deshaun Jackson in this Philadelphia offense. Kellen Moore has really opened up this offense to be a little more modern than what we've seen from Dallas. Dak averaged 9.4 yards per target, his average depth of target was 9.4, which is insane for him. I think last year was at 7.5. So Michael Gallup, he's not Deshaun Jackson in terms of speeds and field stretching. They do use him in that type of role. I expect Cooper to get quote unquote shadowed by Josh Norman. So Gallup's going to see the lesser coverage, and I expect him to at least have 2 or 3 deep field attempts.
Yep. So Michael Gallup, again, chasing points, but I think you're right about the attempts. Shouldn't be game script where they have to throw a lot, but Washington came out and surprised a lot of people. They modernized the offense. Michael Gallup did it with a huge week. But yeah, sorry, my phone decided to call people.
That's odd.
Yeah, it is. Well, I'm discussing the collaboration beer and getting that on the show, and I accidentally called Brent, which shouldn't have done. But by the way, we'll be announcing a collab beer on Monday that you can't buy anywhere, but I get to review it for you. Anyway, so I agree with the Michael Gallup call. We're always professionals here, right? Latavius Murray is my second start of the week against the Rams. We did get to see how Latavius Murray was going to be used on Monday night. It was like a Mark Ingram light sort of role, but saw Mr. Christian McCaffrey put up a really, really good week against Los Angeles. We saw Latavius Murray used. It should be a game that stays relatively close, which is going to keep the game script, I think, relatively even. And I know a lot of people were, oh my God, Rams defense, but I'm still not necessarily sold on them. So I think running Latavius Murray out with the idea that Latavius Murray should have flex value and the chance to pick up a touchdown is exactly the type of play that you're looking for. If you have Latavius Murray, if you lost Darius Geis, you're looking for something that's just going to give you floor. I think that Latavius Murray against the Rams is probably a decent place to look.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the week where we get to see Murray's pass catching upside too. Like, we're going to see it from both, obviously, Kamara, but I think just given that this is going to be a very high up-tempo game, I think Murray has a chance to put together a 5 to 6 target type of game too.
Yeah. All right. You had Jamison Crowder following his week of 1 million targets.
Yeah. 17 targets, week 1 led all receivers in the league. I expect to be a lot better offensively, pushing the up-tempo game script, which means a lot of more throwing from the Jets. We talked about Quincy Newman being placed in IR. I don't expect Darius Thomas to be playing on Monday night, even though they said that they might get him out there if he passes his physical. I think this is what we want to see. A slot receiver in Adam Gates' offense. Robbie Anderson, more on him later, as a sit. is going to see a very difficult matchup. So I expect with no other pass catching option over the middle, instead of maybe Le'Veon Bell, Crowder could see another double-digit target week.
Yeah, I love that going on, especially in PPR and half PPR, but definitely PPR. Jamison Crowder is not going to be a big yardage guy, although we have seen him in Washington put up some yak, but he is going to be a high volume, high reception guy in a game that hopefully is more offensive than what Cleveland showed in week 1.
Yep.
All right, and for me, I'm going to go Calvin Ridley. Ridley saw just 6 targets against the Vikings playing from behind, but he still managed to turn that into a touchdown in a 50 to 60-yard day, which is very, very passable. It's a much, much better matchup against Philadelphia, whose secondary was suspect, especially in letting Terry McLaurin have a good day and Kelvin Harmon be noticeable against a Washington defense that we didn't think was going to be great. Atlanta's offense has a lot more potential. I think that the Eagles' defense is worse than the Vikings. Calvin Ridley should still be in that 5 to 7 target range. Always has a chance for a touchdown. So 5 to 7 targets at 40 to 60 yards gives you a decent floor, and then you throw in the possibility for a touchdown. I'm willing to bet on it, especially after what Terry McLaurin did against Philadelphia.
Yeah, I love this. It was almost mine. Just for I guess a Calvin Ridley revenge type of segment. But right. This game should see high scores. Especially if Atlanta's offense, when they're at home, can get it going. Philadelphia has the firepower to keep up. This could be the sneakiest high scoring game of the week.
Yep. All right, you had Robbie Anderson against Cleveland.
Yeah, so I briefly talked about he gets Denzel Ward, who just goose-egged Corey Davis, and as far as I'm concerned, Corey Davis is a better receiver than Robbie Anderson. I don't expect Robbie Anderson to see much work in this. He may get targets based on game script volume, but you're really relying on maybe one catch to break it, and we're too early in the season to try to chase that type of upside. I'm okay leaving him on the bench. There's a lot of good ads you can bring in that you can play over him. I think you're really chasing that one big play touchdown, which is all he needs. He's basically Deshaun Jackson light in a very bad matchup.
Yeah, I can't disagree with it. It is Deshaun Jackson light in a not great matchup, and you didn't see what you wanted to out of Robbie Anderson. Got it going a little later the last 2 seasons as well, so it's just kind of somebody you want to sit on and sit this week. My first sit of the week is going to be Adrian Peterson. He draws 1, yes, Geis is hurt, but 2, Chris Thompson going to take pass catching work, and 3, he's drawing Dallas, who has a very underrated defense, but definitely a very underrated linebacking core, and not a great offensive line. They're missing some of their biggest players on the offensive line. Yes, Saquon Barkley gashed him, but at the same time,
it's fucking Saquon Barkley.
It's Saquon Barkley, not 35-year-old Adrian Peterson. It's something I want to see. And with Dallas's new look offense, I think the game script is more of a Chris Thompson game than it is an Adrian Peterson game, where I think Washington's going to have to throw more than they're going to be able to grind it out and run, especially with the defense being what they are. So game script not in Adrian Peterson's favor. Offensive line, not in Adrian Peterson's favor, especially after Washington wasn't able to get anything going last week against a very, very similarly talented Philadelphia front line.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't even get 10 carries. I completely agree with you. On the game script, this is going to be all up-tempo. There's going to be a lot of Chris Thompson. Washington is praying that they can keep up early enough to give AP enough touches. He might sneak in a touchdown if the offense can show something, but again, you're just chasing what could be a 10 to 12 carry game for just a hopeful score.
Yep. All right, you got one that I'm obviously going to love, Cortland Sutton against my Bears.
Yeah, I love Cortland Sutton. I was glad to see him get involved last Monday night against the Raiders, but this is Oakland secondary is not Chicago secondary. Chicago secondary held a much better passing offense and pass catching receivers to just 9 catches, 116 yards, and 15 targets. This is a very, very bad matchup, bad game script. I don't expect much from either offense. I would leave both Sutton and Sanders on the bench. I think if you're chasing upside, this is the one game you want to stay away from.
Yeah, Bears secondary, especially Kyle Fuller, who Cortland Sutton figures to match up again, doesn't give up a whole lot. You can get some against Amakamura, but Kyle Fuller not going to give up a ton to Cortland Sutton, even though he looked better last week. I mean, it's not like it's an elite quarterback throwing him footballs or anything. So
I don't even know if it'll matter about Denver's offensive line isn't very good. I mean,
No.
I think the Raiders had 6 or 7 sacks on Flacco. I think with this given pass rush, Khalil Mack and a fucking Floyd and the other interior guy you guys got the interior lineman guy you have over there. I think is gonna feast.
Akeem Hicks.
Yeah, Hicks, that Rogers or Ryan guy, whatever.
Yeah, Robertson Harris.
Yeah, he looks fantastic.
Yep. All right. For me, I'm going the NFC North matchup this week, and I'm going to say you're sitting Kirk Cousins. And that's not a knock on Cousins necessarily, but we saw the Bears defense get after Aaron Rodgers. We saw them sack Aaron Rodgers a ton. That Green Bay offensive line was out of sorts, and it doesn't get any easier for that offensive line against Minnesota. And what that means is Minnesota should be able to play their type of game, which is what you saw last week. Not a ton of passing, but a ton of rushing, a healthy dose of Dalvin Cook, the defensive line and that pass rush taking hold over Aaron Rodgers. I also think that Green Bay's defense is pretty underrated, and while Minnesota was able to run the ball well, last week, I do think Green Bay is a little bit better than what Atlanta is on the defensive front and can expose some of what traditionally is a Minnesota weakness, even though it's a little bit improved in that offensive line. So I think Minnesota ultimately, though, is going to be able to play their game, which is play defense and run the football, the type of game that Zimmer wants to play. And that does not bode towards a big fantasy day from Kirk Cousins. He might still give you streamer viability, but I think you're going to have better options.
Yeah, I think for this case, he's going to throw more than 10 passes. Green Bay at home should be able to at least get something going on, enough to force Cousins to have to throw the ball more than 10 times. I don't see Minnesota getting up, 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, allowing them to play their type of game. So I do agree with you though. Like they're just more upside option to this. You're really chasing a complete, different game than what we saw last week from Cousins. I don't think we're going to reach that point.
Yeah.
You're not getting 35 passes out of Cousins this week unless the Vikings are getting blown out.
Nope, you're absolutely not. And I don't see a scenario where the Vikings get blown out in this one unless the defense just completely shits the bed. But they looked really good last week. All right. Yep. And your sit is from the same game. You're going to be a second bad week if you drafted Aaron Jones.
Yeah, like if you drafted Jones, you should have already known that it doesn't look good for him early on. And obviously he played poorly against the Bears, against the Vikings, who looked phenomenal against Devonta Freeman. Also in a split, backfield. The Vikings held the Falcons to 14 carries just for 50 yards, no touchdowns. Jamal Williams isn't going away. As much as we want, Williams to not be a thing and Jones to get everything, that's not really the case, and I don't think it ever really will be. Jones saw 59% of the snaps to Williams is 41%, but it's the routes run that I think stick out the most to me. 50-50 split almost. 15 for Jones, 14 for Williams. Williams is the most trusted pass blocker, which means that the Vikings defensive line gets to Rodgers more, you're going to see more of Jamal Williams. Again, you're chasing a 1-yard touchdown run maybe from Jones. I think you're going to have to eat another bad week. I understand if you can't bench him because you spent a 3rd or 4th round pick on him. But if you have better options, I think, or like if you even have a semi-viable option, a guy like Chris Thompson, I would play over Jones this week.
All right, and for me, your last set of the week is going to be Devonta Freeman, another guy that I'm expecting a second tough week for against the Philadelphia Eagles. We saw Freeman, first off, the Falcons got behind. If they can keep the game closer, then you might see a little bit more of him. But the Redskins managed just 28 yards on 13 carries against the Eagles. Now, yes, the Redskins don't have a great offensive line. That's another reason why Adrian Peterson was a sit. But Philadelphia also does have a strong front seven. I do think this is a game that is at least close and keeps them passing. And while Devonta Freeman could slide up into kind of that flex territory, I still don't think that makes him a must start. I think you're probably better off sitting him for another option this week, and then, trying your luck again later in the season. And by later in the season, I mean probably week 3 or week 4.
Yeah, I've been fading on Freeman pretty hard. Just, it doesn't look good.
Well, it's kind of the Aaron Jones situation where I think he is going to have viable weeks, and the overall picture is probably going to look okay, but the first couple just are not great.
We got a good question here.
I like good questions.
From Ben. Would you start Chris Thompson over David Montgomery? He didn't preface what the score incident has been. If you want to say if it's a PPR or not.
Full PPR is going to make a big difference there.
If it's full PPR, I think I take Thompson. With what we saw from Josh Jacobs against his front seven, I have I feel a little bit better about Montgomery, but Mike Davis is still a thing.
The other thing, though, with Josh Jacobs is that he did only average 3.7 a carry, so it's not like he was ripping off big runs or anything like that. The reason that the reason that Josh Jacobs did it was volume. He carried the ball 20 plus times. So what you're really betting on here is, does Matt Nagy overcorrect with David Montgomery and try to feed him the ball?
Full PPR league.
Full PPR, I'm going Chris Thompson.
Yeah, it's tough, but game script wise, both is a lot better for Thompson, and the fact that he had 10 targets last week was led the team. I do expect Washington to be playing from behind in this pretty early on. So yes, I would play Thompson over David Montgomery this week.
I would too, and it's entirely possible that Matt Nagy does overcorrect, but there's no guarantee that David Montgomery is going to be able to be any more efficient than what Josh Jacobs was. And the way that offense was moving and completely out of rhythm, there's no guarantee that he falls into the end zone like Josh Jacobs did. So I'm going to be a lot more comfortable with Chris Thompson than I am David Montgomery.
Especially in full point. If this is a standard scoring, I can see leading towards Montgomery. But full point PPR, Thompson's floor it's
high.
It's great.
Yeah,
this week.
All right, let's get into some weekly specials.
Weekly specials.
All right, weekly specials. This is our streamer segment. This is where we give you a pick that's under 60% owned. Each of us will give you a quarterback, tight end, defense. Those are your typical streaming positions. So these are your specials for this week. And Dan, you got somebody I almost picked in Josh Allen.
Yeah, I love Josh Allen this week. Dak Prescott was made to look like a QB god against his New York secondary. Well, obviously the Bills don't have the type of upside of offense that Dallas does with what Josh Allen has, and what he did last week was score rushing touchdowns. I can expect him to score rushing touchdowns, but I do expect him to take more shots down the field. You're going to see a lot more John Brown deep shots. You might see some Robert Foster. Zay Jones should be a theme this week, and I expect the type of upside or I expect his floor to be a lot higher this week, and to give you that good upside from his rushing ceiling.
Yeah. All right, and my quarterback pick this week is Derek Carr against Kansas City. First off, game script says that it's against Kansas City, so there's going to be a decent amount of throwing. Carr was 22 or 26, hyper efficient, 259, and a touchdown against Denver, which has a much better defense than what I'd expect Kansas City to have early in the early going. At least that's the impression that I'm operating under. So there should be more volume there for Derek Carr. And Gardner Minshew against the Chiefs. It's not worth understating that, yes, we love Gardner Minshew, but he's a rookie in his first NFL start, coming in relief duty, and still went 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, and 275 yards. And that's with Nick Foles playing the majority of the first quarter. So, for Derek Carr, I think that he is going to be a quarterback one this week. I think that you couple that volume with a weaker secondary and some of the weapons that he has and what we saw on Monday night. And I am actually weirdly saying something we didn't say at all last year. I am comfortable with Derek Carr. And he's only 29% owned as of Tuesday night.
We've come this far. Derek Carr is a streaming option.
It's not full circle because I was never at the top of that circle.
No.
It's like a half circle. I've come from the bottom, started at the bottom, now we here.
Yes.
All right. You add Jimmy Graham, who owned in 48.7% of leagues this week against Minnesota.
Yeah, he just made the cusp. Not a lot of great options this week, especially
tough
with all the good options already being owned at this point with Hawkinson and Darren Waller and Mark Andrews. So we thought Austin Hooper was going to be a bad play last week against the Vikings. Ended up going almost a top 7 finish. Well, Graham isn't the Graham of his old self. There is some upside to him. He's a full year removed from his hand injury from he had last year. Yes, he's dealing with it now, but he did okay enough last year. Basically, from your tight end streaming option, you're hoping for a touchdown, 5 or 6 targets. I wouldn't be surprised if the Green Bay pushes this up tempo enough for this to be a game where you see a little bit more passing from it. Graham is still a viable red zone option. He got a touchdown last week against the Bears. Got 6 targets, which is a lot more encouraging to see. I'm okay with throwing Jimmy Graham out there. If you, let's say, lost Hunter Henry, you're concerned about OJ Howard with them being hurt, or I got like Greg Olsen too.
Yeah. So I agree with the Jimmy Graham pick because it's way better than what else is out there. And I went down to the barrel for whatever else is out there for Jason Witten against Washington at 15%. And I am not in love with this. This is a Hail Mary. He got a touchdown last week, and that's about the only good thing I have to say. Zach Ertz went for 54 yards against Washington. It's Zach Ertz. Jason Witten, not Zach Ertz at this point. Only 3 receptions for Witten last week. Not a ton of yardage. He's not going to give you a ton of yardage, but he is still reliable, and you're hoping for a touchdown against Washington, which is definitely doable. I expect the Cowboys will be able to move the ball, will be able to get down in the red zone, and Jason Witten is not going to pick up a lot of yak, but he should have some receptions, and you just hope that there's a touchdown there. And again, this is a deep cut because there is not a lot great out there at tight end right now on the waiver wire, and not a lot of great matchups either. So,
yeah,
there you go.
Got a listener question.
Okay.
It has to do with the tight end position. Nathan asks, would you start Darren Waller over Curtis Samuel this week?
Yes. Curtis Samuel.
PPR, I would for sure.
Yeah.
I like Samuel's matchup this week. I think it's a Bucks Thursday night.
I like Samuel's matchup, but what's unencouraging to me was Samuel's performance against the Rams. And what was encouraging to me was the amount that Darren Waller was looked for and targeted and utilized in a game script that figures to be a lot of throwing. So, yeah, they're both they're both plus matchups. So I would kind of prefer Waller. I also think he's more of a red zone threat than what Samuel is.
So he is. This is a full PPR league, so I'm on board with Darren Waller. I would not be shocked if he gets 8 to 9 targets.
He should in that game.
You want from a tight end at this point. You want from a streaming tight end.
Yeah, he should. He should in that game. And Curtis Samuel, it's just kind of an I want to see it thing. It's a home run swing against the Bucs, but 49ers wide receivers didn't necessarily look great against the Bucs. The defense looked decent. So,
well, Hargraves looked a lot better.
Yes,
he's more like a first-round talent, but I expect Hargraves to be
on
back between both Moore and Samuel as they kind of both play that similar flanker-esque yak deep threat type of guy. Samuel is more of a defined route tree, but they're home. I see a case for Samuel, but I trust Darren Waller's upside in terms, or his a floor in terms of targets.
There's a case. I mean, 3 for 32, not great. So yeah, I think we're both on Waller here.
Yep, we're both on Waller here.
All right, DST, you had Houston.
Yes, I love Minshew. I really do. My boy, dude's rocking the fantastic Rico from I can't remember what the movie's called now. Rocking the awesome Rico mustache.
Napoleon Dynamite.
Dude looks like a fucking all-star. But he's still a rookie, making his first actual start on the road, divisional opponent who's coming off a heartbreak loss. Houston's defense isn't very good. So you're hoping for garbage time here. But during garbage time, you get a lot more passing. You get a lot more chances for sacks and picks, potential pick sixes. Minshew looked fantastic last week in a spot start where he wasn't ready, or where he had to just to come in, do whatever the fuck he can to get the to get the job done. I wouldn't be shocked if he takes a little bit more sacks. Wouldn't be shocked if he throws a couple picks too. I think Houston's a good play this week in terms of that upside for turnovers. They may give up some yards and touchdowns, but you'll take that if you can get a pick six out of this.
Yep, absolutely don't disagree with that. I'm going to go with the 49ers against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's offensive line with Cordy Glenn out and Jonah Williams out is a bit decimated, and the 49ers did a really, really good job against another not good offensive line of getting pressure on Jameis Winston. He was sacked a handful of times, but he was almost constantly under pressure, almost constantly having to dance around in the pocket. That is something he can do, and Andy Dalton cannot necessarily do. So I'm going to paint and spin the narrative a little bit that the Bucs' bad performance was not so much the Bucs' offense being bad, even though it looked that way, as it was the 49ers pass rush getting home, getting pressure, making Jameis rush throws, which leads to a lot of things that your defense can do. Cincinnati with the decimated offensive line, I think, is going to be giving up pressures to Andy Dalton all day, and we've seen him crumble in that scenario before as well. So I'm taking the 49ers as an upside stream this week.
And potentially no Joe Mixon, which is...
And if there is a Joe Mixon, it's a hobbled Joe Mixon, so that puts more pressure on Dalton.
Yeah, I like this call. Should be low scoring. May not get a lot of turnovers here, but a lot of good chances for that points based off no points allowed.
And sacks are worth points.
And sacks are, of course, worth points.
All right, let's hit a beer review that we're not going to forget this week.
Nope.
Beer review.
All right, Dan, you're continuing your Oktoberfest tour with Civil Life. What do you got?
It's like great. It's like what 4204 was. It's like what most of these American Oktoberfests are. Very malty, very sweet, great color to it. I already drank it all. I wish I would have actually bought more of this. It's a great Oktoberfest. I think if you're looking for more of the non-traditional style where it's more sweet to it, it's got that decent body where you can drink multiples of these and not feel full afterwards. So this is just a great, it's just a good beer.
Yeah. All right. I was drinking Beer Lichen from Public House out of St. James, Missouri. It's a Marzen style lager. It is, again, kind of the cousin of the Americanized Oktoberfest. This is more their traditional Oktoberfest. There's a nice, like, roasty, almost, I guess, bready, you would call it, biscuity type of taste on this. The malts definitely come out. That's really the grain coming out of it. But that is more the European style. So you get a decent amount of grain. The color's decent. It's very, very crisp, but it does have a decent body to it, kind of like the Americanized Oktoberfest do. It's not quite as sweet as they are. But overall, if you're looking for something that's not quite as sweet, but still has a decent amount of flavor, this is a good one.
Yeah.
So, overall, good job to them. And I'm way excited for the weather to start matching these beers.
Yes, for sure.
And not be like 90 bajillion degrees. All right, let's go ahead and hit some You Call It's before we go home.
You Call It's.
All right, You Call It. This is where we give you a DFS pick and a bet of the week. So, gonna go ahead and start with DFS picks. Dan, you're taking from FanDuel. I'm taking from DraftKings, just as normal because I just think that's where we play.
Yep.
So go ahead with why you like Sony Michel, who I think you talked about earlier anyway.
Yeah. So I won't talk much about him. He is priced competitively well compared to most on the slate. He is a perfect price at $1,600 for cash game value. He's also going to be, I think, a decently good piece, a core piece, for your tournament style for your GPPs. Mainly because I think most people are going to be chasing Tom Brady and these receivers and stack games. So I think Michelle's ownership should be low enough around that 12 to 15% range where you can feel pretty comfortable throwing them out there and hoping you hit big in your tournaments.
Yeah. All right, and for me, I'm going Tyrell Williams. I'm not going to say a whole lot about this either. He was over 100 yards and a touchdown. He is the number one receiver for Oakland. They're playing Kansas City. You've heard us talk about Darren Waller. You've heard us talk about Josh Jacobs. You've heard us talk about Derek Carr. This is the other piece from that offense that I figure to be high volume and really benefit from the fact that this should be a high volume passing game, and I would assume a relatively high scoring game with the Raiders missing part of their secondary and facing Patrick Mahomes. They're going to have to throw. Tyrell Williams is going to be who they're throwing to opposite Darren Waller or outside of Darren Waller. So he's $4,400 on DraftKings, which is incredibly cheap for a third wide receiver.
Yeah. I have no issue with that.
All right. And bets. You got the Falcons at +1 versus the Eagles.
Yeah, I didn't like a whole lot of these. I think at this point, the game became a pick'em, which is pretty much, if it's a one spread, it's pretty much a pick'em in general.
You might as well take the line at that point.
You might as well just take the home team at this point. The Eagles secondary got decimated by fucking Case Keenum, which looked like 2017 Case Keenum. If I expect this game to be a shootout, which I also like the over in this game as well. So I'll take the home team and the points.
Yep. And I'm going to take the spread of +13.5 Cardinals at the Ravens. It's the second week in a row I've kind of gone on the road here, but really, I just think 2 touchdowns is a bit much here. I know what the Ravens were able to do, but it was against Miami. It still remains to be seen how much of that was against Miami and how much of that was Baltimore. We saw the Cardinals defense kind of check Matt Stafford, who still had a good week, and we saw the offense come alive when Kingsbury stopped being, quote, too cute. I think that Cardinals offense is going to come out and play more of a complete game, and I think that defense is going to be a bit more of a test for the Ravens than what Miami's was, obviously. So, yeah, I'm not saying that I don't think the Ravens will beat the Cardinals, so I would steer clear of the line here. But it +13.5, I do think it's closer than a 2-touchdown game.
I like when the spread gets this high. I just don't like betting these games, especially road teams. I wouldn't be shocked if the Ravens don't cover. I wouldn't be shocked if they do. It's gonna be interesting to see the Cardinals play against the defense that's going to try to slow this tempo down. Also, it's going to be, good to see what the Ravens can do against an offense that wants to really speed up this game. Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if this is a 9-10 point win for the Ravens, and I also wouldn't be shocked if the Chiefs or if the Cardinals upset them. So games like that, I don't really want to bet with because they're just too much variable in it.
This game could be very, very high tempo, and the reason and really it's the big spread that makes this attractive to me. As a, I guess, kind of a younger, not as experienced bettor. You've been doing it longer than I have, but that makes it attractive to me just because of the volatility of the NFL in general and how rare it is to see 2-touchdown games, really. I mean, especially with the Cardinals who want to run an up-tempo offense, the Ravens who want to run an up-tempo offense. You got 2 quarterbacks who I know what Lamar Jackson did last week, but I would still consider him a little bit questionable. The Cardinals don't have an amazing defense, but it is going to be better than what Miami's was. So, I'm just I'm
excited to watch this game. I'm really pumped to see what
it's going to be a better measuring stick for both teams.
Yeah, I think this will. I don't think the Cardinals will win, but I think they'll keep this game close enough. If I had to bet one way, I would take the Cardinals in the points. I would bet the over in this, honestly. I'm not sure what it said. I think it's at 47.5 points.
Yeah,
it's around there. I take the over because I think the Cardinals will push enough to make both tomorrow try to keep up, or at least try to match, which would be good for the Cardinals.
Yeah. All right, that's all we got for you this week. Be sure to check in on Sunday for your most recent injury updates and inactives and all that fun stuff. We'll be back Monday. We'll let you know how we did with all of these picks that you heard today. Dish out another punishment. Dan won't forget a stag this time for losing last week. And yeah, follow the show, Beerfield FF on Twitter. Be sure to ask all of your questions there, especially if we're not live on YouTube. It's likely we won't see them on YouTube. If you ask them there, we will get them in the next episode, but it's not something we're constantly monitoring. So make sure you follow the show at Beerfield FF on Twitter, at 3BFF for Dan, at Hot BFF with 2 P's for myself. Also, you can follow the show if you're listening to the audio version to get all the YouTube notifications on YouTube at Beerfield Fantasy Football. We will be back Sunday morning with your live stream. We'll be back on Monday. If you're not into live streams of our Pick Your Six, we'll talk storylines, talk what happened in kind of our conversationalist style, and give you all of our waiver picks. Dan, anything you would like to say before we get out of here?
If you want to ask any questions on a live stream, make sure you hit the notification button, bell, ding it, so you can be notified when we go live. You can have your questions answered like we've done today for Nathan and for Ben. Thanks for the questions, guys. We will see you on Sunday.
We will indeed see you Sunday, one and or both of us.
Yes.
Take care.